You've probably seen a video like this. Someone holding a smartphone, tears streaming down their face as they record an emotional breakdown. But the moment their finger hits stop, the tears vanish and their face drops into a neutral stare. It is easy to look at a moment like that and dismiss it as vanity or a toxic quirk of modern culture. But chronic attention-seeking is a hardwired survival mechanism, one that kept our species alive for millennia, but is now misfiring in a digital environment. To understand why we sabotage ourselves for clicks and views today, we have to look back at the ancestral threats that originally programmed the human brain. For our ancestors, being a visible, valued member of a tribe was everything. Social isolation was a literal death sentence. If the collective ignored you, your access to food, physical protection, and mating partners plummeted. Because of this, the human brain evolved to process a lack of social attention as an immediate, existential threat to survival. We are still running that exact same software. Our brains cannot distinguish between being abandoned by the tribe and getting low engagement on a digital profile. During a healthy childhood, we typically develop an internal compass of self-worth. We learn that we have value even when we are not the center of the room. But when caregivers prioritize social desirability over a child's actual needs, that internal compass fails to form. This creates an approval-seeking schema. The child learns that securing care requires escalating their behavior, throwing massive tantrums, demanding perfection, or even feigning illness just to be seen. In adulthood, this childhood survival tactic migrates to the workplace. You see the peacock, the coworker who aggressively brags to secure constant validation, or the turkey, who feigns helplessness to monopolize the team's sympathy. These individuals are operating with a hollow internal core. Because they cannot validate themselves from within, their sense of existence is dictated entirely by the reactions of others. When this fragile internal schema meets the hyper-connected architecture of social media, the need for validation moves into overdrive. Platforms use intermittent reinforcement, the exact mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. Unpredictable incoming likes trigger a dopamine surge in the brain's reward center, but that chemical high is short-lived. As tolerance builds, the brain drops below baseline, requiring increasingly shocking content to achieve validation. This chart maps a behavior known as sad fishing, the act of exaggerating emotional distress for digital sympathy. The data shows that when physical, real-world social support declines, incidents of digital sad fishing spike. On the opposite end is the rage baiter. Because algorithms prioritize raw engagement over sentiment, digital hatred is mathematically identical to a wave of love. Negative attention becomes an immediate substitute for validation. By exploiting ancient evolutionary anxieties, these platforms trap the brain in a loop where the natural need for connection morphs into an escalating dependency. When this need for attention bypasses everyday coping and solidifies into a rigid pathology, it can overwrite the basic instinct for self-preservation. In histrionic personality disorder, an individual feels unvalued if they are not the absolute center of attention. They lack insight into their own condition, genuinely believing their theatrical, exaggerated displays are normal behavior. Early psychoanalysts identified these dramatic behaviors as character armor. They are defense mechanisms built to shield the mind from severe internal conflict, using performance to keep real emotional pain at a distance. At the absolute extreme is factitious disorder, where individuals actively contaminate laboratory tests or seek out massive, unnecessary surgeries solely to adopt the sick role and receive clinical care. The person in the hospital bed doesn't want a lawsuit or a financial payout. The self-harm is driven entirely by a desperate psychological hunger to be seen by the medical staff. From a filtered selfie to a falsified medical chart, every version of this behavior shares the same outcome. The more aggressively a person chases the gaze of others, the further they drift from themselves. The manipulative pursuit of connection eventually causes a breakdown of trust, exhausting the very community the individual is trying to reach. External applause cannot fill an internal void. The person achieves maximum visibility, but suffers total emotional isolation, because the validation is based on a curated performance rather than an authentic bond. Breaking this cycle requires a shift in the internal schema of value. It means learning to treat digital engagement as a temporary data point rather than proof of existence, and separating your identity from the volume of the noise around you. It is the difficult process of replacing a curated performance with genuine human connection. True emotional freedom is the ability to know your own worth, even when nobody is watching.